Hey guys, it's Steven. Welcome to this episode of Lawn Theory. I am super pumped, humbled, honored, all the feelings to have a really good friend here with me today. I'm joined with Rick. I've known Rick for what is it? Almost a year, coming up on a year,
Yeah,
maybe
just
less than that.
yeah,
So
just about.
yeah, but thanks for joining me, Rick. We're gonna get into a whole bunch of fun stuff. Could you tell I know who you are? I know all about you, but could you tell the folks just a little background about yourself?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. Hey, everybody, my name's Rick. Personally, I come from Haiti, and I've been living in California since joining the military. I was in the special operations community, and now I work with a company called Deep in Fitness, mainly around training, mindset, and also overall health.
Yep. The Enric was also in the Marine Corps. That's the special operations side that he was in. His favorite color of crayon is blue. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
That is correct.
the But I wanted to bring you in today because we have a lot of our customers, our audience, that ask us all the time just around situational awareness, concealed carry, things to think about when they're on the job site. I know we talked a little bit before this as well, but a lot of the lawn landscapers, they have equipment just stolen
Mm.
off the back of trucks, off of their trailers, having Tyler trailer stolen like like we did, which I've never told you that story, and I'll tell you that today. But the just having that right frame set, right mindset when they're on their equipment, and just things to consider while they're going down the road.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. So,
Well, first you gotta tell me that story though.
all right, I'll tell you the story first. So the this was 2 years ago. I had custom made an axe throwing trailer that doubled as a transport trailer for us going to big trade shows for Lawn Buddy, and I bought it as like a flatbed trailer, and I took it into a buddy's shop and I fabricated it to. It was a full 8 foot long, 5.5 foot wide axe throwing trailer, and double axle, and built it from the ground up, and it all folded down, kind of origami style, to where it was all nice and flush. I took it on one trip from here to Louisville, Kentucky, and when I came back, I parked the trailer in our lot, and I'm a rather suspicious man, so I also had a GPS unit attached to it when I was building it, and within 4 hours, it was stolen from the parking lot, and so
An empty lot.
an empty lot. And so I came. Actually, I was suspicious, and I was like, "I'm gonna go check on the trailer." And I went and I checked on the trailer that evening, and it was gone. And sorry, that morning, and it was gone. And I was like, "I gotta go check the tag and see where it's at." And I thought there was an error. I thought that when I saw it, it was pinging a block away from the location. I was like, "Oh no, it must have fallen off when I was driving the trailer back from the trade show." And keep in mind, the trailer was loaded down, so it had all my tools, all the company's TVs, like a bunch of stuff we had rented was all on this trailer. And someone had hooked and towed it off, which is what happens to a lot of these landscapers. And it wasn't pinging a wrong location. And so, luckily, my wife wasn't working, and she came with me. And I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go down this dirt road where my trailer's pinging. Would you mind parking in this large parking lot?" And I said, "Just tell me who's coming down the road, and I'll keep you on the phone." And so I'm driving down looking, and it starts to rain, and I look over to the left, and there's someone with a fire going in their front yard. And I look, and they're burning Lawn Buddy signs in the front yard, and I see like a bunch of our equipment across their front
You,
lawn.
you had some enemies or what?
I no, they so this it gets worse. So I'm there, and I'm like, "Oh snap, they're burning all my stuff." And so I parked. I was probably 3 houses down. I parked on the opposite side so I could see what they were doing. And I called the police, and I said, "Hey, our trailer was stolen," which I had already filed a police report earlier that morning. And I said, "I found where it's at. They're burning my stuff in their front yard." And they said, "Oh, just stay there. We're sending units." Um, 20 minutes goes by, 30 minutes goes by, 40 minutes go by, and there's no one there. And I was just getting ready to call again, and this lady, maybe mid-30s, like super strewn out, you could tell she was on drugs, comes running out in the street because she had seen me, and started yelling, "What am I doing here?" And so I was like, well, I've lost the element of surprise. And so she starts running back into her house. And so I take my truck and I pin them into their driveway so they can't get out. Yeah.
You're not kidding. This is getting
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah. It keeps going. So I pin them into their driveway and I called the cops again. I said, hey, they know I'm here. And I pinned them into their driveway so they can't leave. And they said, okay, yeah, we're still sending units there on their way. So I called my wife again. I said, hey, I really need to know who's coming up and down this road. And she's on the phone with me. And maybe 10 minutes later, she says, there's a maroon SUV and it's like going 60 down this back road towards you. And sure enough, it blows past me, flips a U-turn and starts driving straight at me. And by that time, I was concealed carrying appendix, which we'll get into here in a second. But I drew my pistol and I told Sonia, I said, call the cops. And I hung up. And I said, call the cops, tell them I've drawn my weapon. And I hung up. She calls the police. And right before they get to the front of my truck, there's their house where they were burning everything. There's this like broken fence line and a little ditch that leads to where their little bonfire of lawn buddy stuff is going on. Right before they get to the front of my truck, they jump the borrow ditch into their front yard and their doors fly open. And so I open my truck door and I get in between the door frame and the A-frame of the pickup truck. And I'm just like, well, here we go. And out hops this old lady and a guy with his leg in a cast and crutches. And they start hobbling into the house as fast as they can. And I'm like, well, that escalated quickly. That was not what I was expecting to come out of this car. And so they go in and literally 60 seconds later, the cops pull up. A single unit shows up. And I tell them what's happened and what's going on. And they say, okay, stay in your truck and we'll go in. And simultaneously, that same old lady comes out with 2 cats in her hands and tries telling them, we've been here this entire time. This guy he's lying to you. No one's in this house. Anyways, they finally investigate. They get a warrant. They go in. Half of my stuff is there. They had chopped up the frame of my trailer, and that's what was there, was all the things they had chopped up in the back because it was a chop shop. While we're there, they couldn't get additional units to respond. They asked me to walk the property with them to identify it. While we're going through the home, a dude on the couch is ODing, and they call the fire department and the ambulance, come and give him Narcan. He refuses transport from there, and he just chills out on the couch. And the lady who came out in the middle of the street, that's like her boyfriend's house, and she's saying she has nothing to do with it. And this is where, because they were like, hey, yeah. And so like just and there was so much stuff there. There was mowers, there was a bunch of lawn care equipment, there were trailers. They had stolen like 100 chairs from Lowe's that was still wrapped with the Lowe's logos on it. And the other half of my trailer had all my rented equipment, had all my TVs, all the expensive stuff, all my tools, my Milwaukee tools they took. And the police were like, hey, if she doesn't give us an address, we can put out like a bolo on your equipment, but that's it. And so I asked him if I could speak to the lady for like 60 seconds, just with her and I and the police without the other, because there was 3 or 4 other dudes that were there. And they say yes. They say I can speak to her alone with the officers. And I knew that she was already terrified and she was scared and she wasn't telling me. She kept saying, I don't know nobody. I don't know nobody that has your trailer. And so she came over and I had a conversation with her and I said, and I'm making this shorter, but I essentially said, I know you don't know nobody, but tell nobody my attorneys are Martin Pringle and you are somebody and I'm going to sue you until you have nothing left if you don't give me this address. And she walked in the house and came back out and gave the cops an address. And so the story continues. They tell me I can't go.
Went from bad to worse.
Yeah, it keeps getting worse. They tell me I can't go, and so to stay at my office, and they'll call me when they found my trailer. And they go down there and they about an hour later, they call me and say, "Hey, we have good news. Your trailer's in the driveway. You can come pick it up." And I said, "Well, what about the rest of the stuff?" I said, "Well, we don't know where it's at." And so I drive down there. Sure enough, it's in downtown Wichita, really, really bad neighborhood. And the trailer was in the driveway, all cut up, but it was still on it was basically back to how I bought it. They turned it back into a flatbed trailer. And I get down there and they say, "Well, you can hook up your trailer and leave." And I said, "Well, what about the rest of the stuff? Have you looked at it?" It said, "We've been trying to knock on the door. There's someone in there. They put a mattress up against the door and we can see them, but we can't get a warrant to get them to come out." I said, "Well, my trailer's right here." And they said, "Yeah, but because it's not in their backyard, you don't need a warrant to get it. You can just leave. The DA is not going to give us a warrant." And I said, "Well, have you looked in their backyard? Because it's wide open." And they said, "No, we can't do that. And we can't tell you not to do that, though. So if you happen to see your stuff, let us know." And so I go up, I stand on the trailer, and all my stuff is in the backyard. Like everything, all the trusses, the TVs, everything but my tools I could see in the backyard. And so I went and I told them that, and they reported it to the DA, and they said there was no way for me to positively identify that it was my equipment in their backyard, and they weren't going to give me a warrant. Um, and by this time, I'd spent a decent amount of time with the officers, and they essentially told me, like, "Hey, we have to sit in our cruisers and continue filing this report. They're turning it down for this reason. If somehow you happen to fall into proof that that is yours while we're filing our report, please let us know and we'll submit it." And so I broke into their backyard and and got the proof they needed. But what's crazy is when I broke, I don't know,
When you got
I
in their
stumbled into
backyard.
their
Yeah.
backyard. They had an AR leaned up against the garage door, and I was like, "Oh, this is even more interesting." And so, anyways, I find all the stuff. The dude is inside because he's got lights on. By this time, it's like 7, so it's dark. He's got lights on, but no one's home. And so, long story short, I go in, I identify the equipment. The DA finally issues the warrant for me to seize my assets, but no one can help me. So I'm in the backyard shoving all this stuff back onto my trailer to hook and tow back, and finally do it. And then to accelerate the story even more, I get a investigator from Wichita Police Department assigned to my case. He goes down 2 weeks later to like start building a case against this guy because I'm still missing my tools, my beloved Milwaukee tools, which I never recovered.
Oh, they're gone.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've been gone.
yeah, for a long time. And so he goes in to investigate, knocks on the door. A girl answers in a Lawn Buddy t-shirt because they had stolen like boxes and boxes of our swag. And he says, "Do you know whose company that is that's on your shirt?" And she said, "No." And he said, "Well, it's actually a company who I'm assisting in an investigation for stolen items." And anyway, he asked to see if her boyfriend's home, and he was murdered in an alley, like 2 days before he had gotten there. Someone ran him over, and he was trying to get access to the garage because there had been reports that a lot of people had been going in and out of the garage. And she told him that when he died, he had the garage door remote in his pocket, which was destroyed, and so she couldn't even get into the garage, and so they had to drop the case.
Dude,
So,
that sounds like the plot to like a comedy movie,
oh yeah,
man.
it was horrible and it was crazy. We literally could have had a all hands like first responder baseball tournament because we had every unit or every department imaginable that had showed up. But that is a little snippet of what happens to these guys and gals trailers and equipment all the time, like ridiculously all the time.
Yeah, you definitely paint a really good picture of like how this can happen, like specifically leaving your trailer in an open lot. I mean, if that's the only place you could have parked, I totally understand. But like in these areas where it's remote, if it's a remote area like that, that you're definitely opening yourself up for a bit of trouble, right?
Yep.
Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but if you are the only one there, your equipment looks good, and your equipment is within reach. I mean, there's always going to be somebody that might think about it, and then there are those that are actually going to do it.
Yep. Yeah, and looking back on it, it was our lot, so I should have clarified it. It wasn't like an empty lot; it was
Oh, so
our.
it's your lot.
Yeah, and But looking back on it, I shouldn't have ever left it there, and I could have probably bought one of those hitch locks
Hmm?
that they put on the trailer to make it to where they couldn't hook up and tow. Um, but luckily, I had a whole bunch of security cams that caught them. But a lot of people don't have that, so if they get their stuff taken, it's just into the abyss.
Yeah, if you own the lot, security cameras are a decent deterrent. All right, gates, locks, security cameras, so you can at least have ID the capabilities to ID somebody. But at the end of the day, like, this brought up a good point. Uh, I hitch the locks so people can't hook up to you and then throw your stuff away. And I mean, last thing, like security. But if you can't have some extra security walking the lot or making sure they not deter anybody away, but you do have to act as your own security on top of being a lawn buddy business owner too.
Yeah, for sure. And so what about when they're on the job? So let's say, we'll just use an example. Luke Latimer called me right before we go in here. Let's say Luke is out. He's got his company, Latimer Lawns. He's got his truck and trailer, and he's out mowing
Mhm.
to where he's actually performing the services as well. But people come up and they pick equipment off trailers. Not all the time do they steal the entire trailer. I've heard it though before where they'll unhitch the trailer and then hook and tow to another truck. But what are some considerations for them?
So if they're on the job already,
Yeah,
like
they're on the job already. They're mowing. Their truck and trailers parked on a street
yeah.
right next to the job.
Yeah, we really have to have a system where you can keep an eye on your stuff. Like if someone's approaching your stuff, you have to be able to at least confront them and ask them what they're doing. Like if you know that it's a location where it's empty, nobody comes to a lot but you or the people that you hire, but you have someone that you've never seen before looking around your stuff. That's where like you want to deter them from going in through your stuff. I mean, I'm not saying like going guns drawn, like if you have your concealed carry already, but it's just a simple conversation to just deter them from doing it. But for you as the owner, like you have to have full situational awareness of your gear, the location that you're in, and sometimes those lots are like you acquire it, and then that's when you put your stuff there. It's typically, a thing I would say is just do a site survey, like best areas, last sites of any crimes or any items that were stolen there before, or any theft in the area. And if you know that it's an area that's not necessarily like the best thing, that's when you have to look into getting like deeper security, like locks. Make sure you have plenty of cameras. Don't leave your truck on the side of the road, even though it might be the easiest thing to get in and get out, but that also gives everybody access to your equipment. So thinking about moving it into a place where it's closer to you, you have eyes on it. You can get to from the trailer to from the mower to your truck or to your trailer within minutes or seconds, or seconds or minutes. Like when I say minutes, like maybe like a minute or two.
Yep.
You're running, you're walking, you're getting the person's attention. You don't want to be so far away that they can just grab stuff, load their truck up, and as you're going there, they're already taking off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just building in a good system too, because we
Mhm.
have. I mean, we've got some people like Luke. He's got employees, so he can have at least multiple eyes that are on it
Yeah.
all the time. There's a customer and friend up in New York, Sean Perillo. It's mainly just him um, when he's out by himself doing spraying and stuff. And so I think it would just be getting into a good routine of stopping and checking, like you were
Yeah.
talking about, is
Yeah.
like,
Especially if you're by yourself.
yep,
Like, I mean, I may be like, going a little too deep or overthinking it, but it's just even if you set up a bit of a rotation,
yep.
right? Now, how big are your job sites sometimes? Like,
So it varies from customer to customer, but so let's say you have residential and you have commercial. So
mhm,
residential is like you're going and you're just maintaining a front yard and a backyard.
okay,
But commercial, it can be a lot larger, but then the considerations flip because you're not necessarily parking on a street. Most of the time, then you're in a parking lot. And
yeah.
so, to your point, it may be easier to park closer to where you're performing the service, but maybe it's smarter to go park where the security cameras are in front of the
Yeah.
door.
Because security cameras are a good deterrent, but it's, I mean, you can always put a hoodie on, put a mask on, or whatever, but it's still like one of the safer bets than you just park on the side of the road where it's like, one, you're opening your gear up to just be taken, and two, you put yourself at risk if you are, you know, get putting yourself in between you, the person trying to get your gear and your gear.
Yep.
You can put yourself at really great risk because you have no idea what they have on them, if they're specifically if they're stealing your stuff.
Yeah, for sure. The some guys and gals too, they run truck cameras
Hmm?
and trailer cameras. There's a lot of new solutions coming out specifically with there's a security camera company called Wise that makes job site cameras that run off of LTE. That's another good solution to at least be able to semi ID someone. But you brought up a good point, which leads into a whole nother topic. But so we talked about situational awareness,
Hmm?
and a lot of these guys and gals they carry while they're on the job site. And you and I have talked, and there's everything from they have a good solution for firearm retention or concealment, all the way down to really poor. Um,
Yeah, like we're talking like good. You have your holster. You're carrying appendix, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock if you're left-handed, and then down to like I just stick it in my pocket of my sock.
yeah, yeah. And so, could you run us through? So, oftentimes, I think they'll hear some of these terms and be confused. Not everyone, but
Yeah.
when you hear of IWB, OWB, inside the waistband, outside the waistband, appendix 3 o'clock, could you kind of walk us through a little bit of that, what that is, and maybe use some visual references?
Yeah, so going down the line, like inside the waistband, so those are more of a concealed carry. You have a couple of things here, but I think you have this one for inside the waistband.
Mm-hmm.
For this one here, it's like it just goes right in through your pants. It goes through your belt loop, and then going right down to inside. And that one, it's mainly used for appendix, which is like right in front of you. And I like I prefer appendix if I'm walking around, right? If I'm walking around or going places, if I'm not gonna be seated for a long period of time, or if I'm not gonna be doing anything that's gonna impede my ability to draw.
Yep.
Okay, and so I think we talked about some of the laws here. You can open carry if you'd like. You can open carry, you can conceal carry. Now, if you're in a job site, yes, you can open carry and just have it on your side at 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock position, or nine if you're left-handed, which is just the sides. That's
Mm-hmm.
it, and that's a really good deterrent because typically, if someone like, for example, in your situation for your awesome story is that going out there, if you were to approach somebody and they were to see that you were armed, there's a really good chance they back down,
Mm-hmm.
right? But with that said, that doesn't mean you just run at them because you know you're armed, because you have no idea what they have.
Yep.
It's good to, if they can see it, it can act as a deterrent. It can. The other side of that is like some people can see it, and now that gives them the time to set up a plan, or they have a better situational awareness about you. Like, okay, this guy's armed. I don't know if his worker is armed, but we got to be watchful of him.
Yep.
So that's some of the things to think about when you're talking about open carry outside the waistband. I prefer inside the waistband because same thing, right? You don't know what I have, I don't know what you have, but I want you away from my stuff. What's the most important thing when it comes to carrying a weapon? What do you think?
Knowing how to employ it and use it.
Yes, training, knowing how to use your stuff, knowing how to use your equipment. Just because you have it, it's great. But if you get into a situation where, like, I hope you don't, or anybody has to, where you have to draw because the other person's armed as well. Like, if you're not proficient with your equipment, or if you don't actually practice it, or put it on to see how it feels, but don't actually do some work around with it, move it around to see what's most comfortable and what's the fastest to get to, it puts you at a significant risk and at a deficit when it comes to getting in a kinetic situation. Me personally, I am a huge fan of T-Rex holsters. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is not a plug for
Yep.
for them. They're not paying me anything. I just a friend of mine let me borrow his, and I kind of stole it, but I ended up paying him for it because I love the holster.
Yep.
I really love it. It's an appendix carry, and it has a little sidecar with it that I can put an extra magazine in. So the
Yep.
extra magazine doesn't have to go in my pocket, or I put it somewhere else. It's very comfortable, and you can just throw a shirt over it. And I have a Glock 19, and I'm a huge fan of Glock
Yep.
19s, and it fits perfectly. It's not cumbersome. I can sit down, I can bend over in front, bend over and grab something, bend over and pick stuff up, and not worry so much about it just like digging into my groin area, digging into my leg, or digging into my stomach or my appendix.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm a huge fan of those kind of holsters. There's the T-Rex. They have the T-Rex arms. They have Ronin 3.0. They have the Axis. They have a lot of different types
Yep.
of holsters. And if you're gonna go for 3 o'clock, I do recommend this one right here because this is perfect. It's simple. It's slick,
Hmm.
and like when you go to draw, you typically won't have anything in front of you specifically since for you drew while you were in your truck.
Yep.
It, depending on what you have in front of you, how close the wheel is to you, can kind of be a bit of an issue to draw from the appendix. You can just draw from your side too.
Yeah. Yeah. It was actually this holster here. So it was the because I knew my trailer was stolen.
Hmm?
I let the environment dictate what I was taking with me, right?
Yeah.
And so I knew already that I was going into a situation that was potentially not great.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, this is an outside the waistband kind of not a full pancake holster, but it was also in October, and so for concealment, it's really easy to throw this on
Yeah.
your belt and then put your hoodie or
Put your
your
hoodie over
jacket
it.
over it. Whereas in summer, like I can't, like
No, it's-
yeah, and this was for a Glock 19X, and which I love. But I'm also a huge fan of Glock. But to your point too, in the summer and our guys and gals, they're in the field. It's hot. They're always going to be slouched
yeah.
over on either like the zero turn or not. And you brought up a really good point. For these, like T-Rex is amazing, but one of the things that I love is when I get a holster, if I know I'm going to be appendix carrying a lot.
Hmm?
I'm also a hairy dude. So I have to keep that in mind. But what I'll do is I'll buy the holster, I'll have it made, and then I'll go to Hobby Lobby and I'll buy suede leather, and then I'll kind of cut it to fit, and then I'll put some spray glue on it, and I'll adhere that leather to the holster, so that way as I'm running, I'm not like
Just rubbing
pinching
yourself.
hair and I'm not like stabbing myself as I go. But you had brought up an excellent point too, and I think it's way more important than any of the gear or holsters you can have is training. I think one of the biggest mistakes is we have the freedom and the right to bear arms, but it also gives you the responsibility to know
Yeah.
what to do with that.
Yeah.
And I saw that in the firearms industry a lot when we were doing training. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are like if if you are going to carry or even own firearms, train, get to know the safety rules, know what you would employ it for, right? What I know everybody has their own like views on I carry 45, I carry this because of that. I'm a very simple guy. I saw first time I saw a Glock, I'm like, I want one of those, and I've been a Glock fan ever since. And it's very simple for me. But when it comes to training, I have a training gun that I practice every chance I get. And sometimes when I go to the range, I try to ask as many questions for people who are way better shots than I could ever be. I just ask questions. So what are some things, some considerations, even if I already know what the answers are, just to hear what they have to say. But it always boils down to knowing your gear, working with your gear, actually taking some time and going to a range and shoot, taking some classes. If you're not too proficient or comfortable with your skill level, not you per se, I'm just talking on an individual. If you're not too comfortable, go take a class, because at the end of the day, it makes it so that you're much more responsible if you have that kind of training, that understanding, and the responsibility that comes with owning a firearm.
Yeah.
Because I know we were talking a little bit about people just like, yeah, I'm just gonna toss it in my pocket or toss it in my waistband. And if you have to run to get off the mower and then run to your gear, your stuff falls out. Now that's a whole other issue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I always noticed that some of the best shooters I ever met were the most curious. So they were willing to ask questions and they were humble enough to take classes and learn. Um, because there's always stuff to learn.
Oh yeah, and tactics are constantly evolving. Like weapons are evolving. So there's like, well, are you gonna run a hollow side, or are you gonna just run iron sides, or whatever the case is? I mean, I have both.
Yep.
So I have one with a little hollow side, and I have one that's just straight iron sides.
Yeah. That's like red dots weren't a thing like a handful of years ago. But the one of the things that we run into a lot, or that I used to run into when I was in the industry a lot, was some of the biggest barriers were
Mhm.
when their parents or their grandparents had taught them how to shoot, and you get really defensive when it comes to learning new strategies. And I mean, even now, just talking about any strategy, any opinion, right? You're always going to have pushback to say, no, that's not right. But I think being curious and being willing to learn and then test those theories, that's what's
Yeah.
going to lead to growth. I mean, the other ones that we see is for the holsters, they'll run a like a fabric holster with a big push pin button. And so if you've never practiced with that, if you've never trained with it, then you realize, like, if I go to draw,
Now
I'm
it's stuck.
pulling up a garment, I'm trying to grab this button, I'm trying to unbutton this button, and then I'm trying to draw. And I think
Yeah, it can be a lot of steps.
yeah,
It can be a lot of steps, specifically if you don't practice with it, if you don't train with it. And it's not like you need to get on the mower and then you're in your backyard just riding around and trying to draw out of it. It's just a simple way to do it. What position would you be in if you have to draw?
Yep.
Most likely standing, right? I would say most likely. That's the most likely answer that I can come up with.
Yep.
But in the eventuality that you're sitting on the mower like, oh crap, and you feel threatened, and the biggest deterrent you have is your weapon. Is it a comfortable draw? Are you quick enough to draw? And then just start creating distance. Right? Start creating that distance, or start barking those commands like, hey, who are you? This is private property. You're trespassing. Or if it's a situation where you just have to flee, right? You
Yep.
have to make sure like your gear is intact. You can draw and create that distance, so that way now you're safer. You can holster it and put your stuff away. But I think what's the most important is that you practice with your gear.
I couldn't
You
agree
have
more.
to.
Yep. And then practice too for your environment. I think a lot of times we build up training scars with just going to the range and punching holes in paper.
Yeah.
That it's good to build the fundamentals, but if you're not you're not gonna get into a situation where you're having to make those decisions on, um, can I deter the threat? Can I run from the threat? Do I need to engage the threat? They're not going to stop and say, get comfortable
Yeah.
and like take your time, unbutton that holster, take a deep
Pull it
breath,
out of your
slow,
sock.
steady squeeze.
Yeah.
So
You always got to start with the fundamentals though.
Yep.
Like basics, you have to harp on the basics. Yes, it can be boring if you're just
Mhm.
standing on a flat range or standing in an indoor range, you're just shooting paper
Mhm.
and you can't move or do anything, but you have to get that dialed in first.
Correct.
Like I'm a big believer in it. I know some people may disagree. I'm not entirely sure. I know some people don't really like to go to the flat range like that. They'd rather go to a more open bay where you can get a lot of tactics in. But those are the type of guys that already have the basics
Mhm.
down, right? And you can always fine tune it and hone it. Like actually, one of the best shooting courses I've gone through outside the military, the guy, he made us stand there for 10 minutes just dry firing, and he had a full curriculum on just dry firing for
Yep.
10 full minutes, and I was like, this is, dude, I'm bored as hell after that.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like, okay, now you have, oh, one round in the magazine, one round in the chambers, and so one shot, take a second, take another shot on paper, and then it just helped us build that muscle memory back. And then we got to do more fun shooting on the move, engaging multiple targets, and so on. But what we found is that our shots got more accurate after we did just 10 minutes of just standing there dry firing.
Yeah.
And he counted every single second. Like we were not
Yep.
finishing early.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's a really really good point. And I think my point is that I wasn't knocking the flat range. It's more of go to the training classes,
Yeah,
do
take the
that
classes.
dry fire, and
Hell,
don't just try to do it. Well, you can just do it yourself, and you can. There's a lot of good resources you can learn from online, but be open to learning, taking classes, so they can put you through that
Yeah.
dry fire and like just those monotonous
and
things.
and it builds that muscle memory, and you can do it at home. You can
Yeah.
put up a paper target in the garage and just stand there and just practice the fundamentals.
Yep.
You have the information. Like so you went to a course, you have the information. Now you can practice it, which also gives you the opportunity to say, well, you know what? I'm not so comfortable drawing from the appendix,
Yep.
right? I'm not so comfortable with that. So let me try moving my holster around a little bit. See what position's most comfortable, and then you just keep practicing those fundamentals. That helps you build that muscle memory. It also gets your gear right. So now, say you're sitting on the mower, and you're like, you know what? I like carrying it here. If anything, I can still draw my weapon if I need to.
Yeah.
Right? You can have it here, and holster wise, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still a fan of the T-Rex holsters, but you
Hmm.
can customize it just like
Yep.
we talked about. You talked about this, so you can customize it to make it more comfortable for you. I know some people they like to cut some things off or glue some fabric to it. It's whatever makes it more comfortable for the individual.
Yep.
Now, the biggest thing is find if they already have the weapon, find a holster that fits, one that's comfortable when you're wearing it, and also like how where are you gonna put it on while you're on the job site?
Yep.
What are you doing on the job site that may impede you from having to draw your weapon, or get your weapon caught, or get your holster caught, or anything like that. But if it's outside the outside carry, you can bang your holster on anything specific if you're doing construction work, right? You
Yep.
can bang your holster on different things. You can get caught or snagged on some things. If you're carrying, if you're concealed carrying, chances of it getting snagged into things are much lower. So
Yeah.
those are like little things for consideration in terms of if you're carrying on the job site. But to just kind of go down the line, like for just to secure the individual for long body, is this like if you're going to a site, just do a quick site survey, location, what's around, if it's if it's a really bad area, like what's the crime rate like, where's the last crime, because I'm sure
Yep.
they have charts, kind of like the California fire charts. I'm sure they have charts of like this happened here and so
Hmm.
on. Just build a bit of essay on the location. If you can, hire a bit more security. Now, if you don't have the luxury to park it in a lot that's secured, locked gate, cameras, and so on, then put it in an area that have cameras, but it's not too far away from you. And
Yeah.
final consideration, park your truck as close to you that you can have easier access or
Hmm.
quicker access to it, than putting it somewhere that everyone has access to it, but it'll take you a lot longer to get
Yeah.
to your stuff than anybody else.
Yep. The that's that's great. The what are some other considerations you take into outside of um, uh, the security and
Mhm.
the holster? What are some things that you like to have on you just when you're on the job site? So um, we've got a flashlight here, first aid kits. What are some of the other considerations? Because I think you're more likely to put a band-aid on than to hopefully than to
Yeah,
draw your pistol.
yeah.
You'd be in the wrong line of work if you're you're drawing your
Yeah,
gun more.
if you're at a construction site and you're drawing a pistol more, it's like, yeah, you should probably switch careers.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, always have a first aid kit. Even in my truck, I have a first aid kit. If I'm going to the range, I bring my full trauma kit. Because the range I go to, it's an open bay, and sometimes I'm in there by myself. So I have a full trauma kit, and my first aid kit just stays in the truck. Flashlight, always have a flashlight and a small knife.
Yep. For sure. The so I think some of the biggest takeaways from today are some of the really easy to take home steps are know where you're going and
Mhm.
then scan the area when you get there.
Yeah.
Create that
Having a bit of that situational awareness.
yeah.
If you know that, well, I don't have anywhere to park my truck, but I'm gonna leave it in on the street, or parked in this lot, even though I own the lot, but it's everyone has access to it. Everyone can just walk up to it. Just a bit of essay. Every once in a while, go check on your gear. Go check on your truck. Make sure everything's still locked. Make sure you're still there. And if you have other people with you, you can get a quick rotation.
Yeah.
Even if it's a break, hey man, go get a break. I'm gonna go take a break. I'm gonna go check on the truck. Or if you take a break, can you check on the truck and make sure that nobody's around, all the stuff's still there. Just little things like that, because for someone that's casing you, and they see that your pattern is like, okay, they're checking on their stuff, they're less likely to do something.
Yep.
And now if they're adamant about getting your stuff, what are you gonna do? Oh, okay, every 10 minutes they come and check on the truck. So after that, I have 10 minutes to
Yep.
go after your stuff. But it's just these little things to give you that peace of mind. Like, okay, it's still there. I'm building that situational awareness. Like I like to get into the nitty gritty of things. I mean, I'd pull up a Google map of the area, see where, if you are worried about it because of the location that you are, where would they come from? Where would they come from? What are some of the areas around houses? Um, are some of those houses chop shops? Are they like, they look like meth houses? Or it's like, okay, this is a nice neighborhood, but I'm still gonna be mindful of where my
Yeah.
stuff's at.
Yeah, for sure. The and then the I think probably the biggest takeaway for me is that it doesn't matter um, your gear if you're not training.
It matters because, I mean, it's better to have it
Yep.
than to not have
Well,
anything, but you have to I am a firm believer that you have to train.
mhm.
You have to training builds that confidence that you can use your stuff to the best of your ability. And also with training, you get a lot of different perspective and the do's and don'ts, the go criteria and the no go criteria is for whether you should draw or anything like that. Now we're strictly talking about like carrying, but you also build that responsibility of like learning how to de-escalate,
Yeah.
learning how to like create a situation where it's like, hey man, you know, this is my stuff, put it back, give me all my stuff back. I've already called the cops, stuff like that to make it so that you don't escalate the situation further, which realistically sometimes if people are going to be mad, right? You're going to
Yeah.
be mad, your stuff's going to get stolen, emotions are going to be high, and the likelihood of something going wrong is really high. Now, specifically if you feel like your life's in danger.
Yep.
But just having a system of like how far, if I were to call the police, how far away is the police station? And
Mhm.
even then, like, do they even have any units available that can just leave the police station and come to me, or they have to just call around for units? And for you, well, you waited almost what, an hour?
Yeah, it was almost a full hour.
And even then, it's like one guy showed up and they're like,
Yep.
hey, man, what's going on?
Mhm.
So you have to take these things into consideration, specifically if you're on a job site by yourself, like a job like this, and you're by yourself.
Yeah, for sure. The well, hey man, I appreciate the heck out of you, and I know our customers and our listeners are gonna love this as well. Do you have any parting thoughts that you wanna give to everyone, or?
Wish I had more time with you, man.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We could talk about this for hours. I think
That's true.
it's a very fun topic for me, that I've always been passionate about, but I think it's also one that these guys just have people that take advantage of them all the time. And so
Yeah.
whether it's stealing equipment or using their equipment,
Yeah.
the having a good plan, a good situational awareness
Yeah.
strategy to implement is just, you got to make it like second nature. So,
Yeah, you do. Like if I were to give any feedback or anything of value, it would be to have a plan. Like, if you know where you're going for a job, if you can lay out the job site, plan it out, how it's gonna look, where you're gonna put your gear, the most advantageous place to put your gear, and how you have ease of access, and also just like understanding that, if you're by yourself, yeah, sure, there's some risk that comes with it. Does that mean it's gonna happen? Probably not, right?
yeah,
Most likely not. But, you're planning for the potential of something going wrong, whether it's gear getting stolen or you having to de-escalate a situation so you can get your stuff back.
yeah,
But planning is planning and training.
yeah,
Plan for your workday. Plan for the job sites you're going to be at. Look it up. Build that situational awareness around it, and make it so that you have a process.
hmm
You have a process for it too.
yeah. That's great. Well, we end these all the time with a dad joke, and
Oh
Samuel
no!
sent me with one for you. Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
So, Samuel wants to know, why was the skeleton afraid to compete?
I don't know.
He had no guts.
I should have said I'd do it.
You got a dad joke in the backlog?
I haven't been building up my dad joke vlogs yet.
Hey, Samuel will help you build them up.
All
Just
right, I look forward to that.
yeah, yeah. So thanks guys for joining. Thanks Rick for
No,
coming on and
thank you
being a
for
great
having me,
person.
and guys, that was awesome. I look forward to maybe chatting with you again one day about this.
Yeah, that'd be great. We could probably do this for a long time. So, but all right, thanks guys.